Okay, so let's take a look at this guy and kind of figure out our approach of how we would solve a system of equations with three variables. Uh, there's, when you talk about common sense and you think about it, what common sense means, we need to also think about the fact that there's number sense. And so when we look at this guy, if you kind of scan through, 2, 3, 7, not really. Numbers are all multiples of each other. So, 2 is not going to go into 7, and it's not going to work out like that. Whereas if you look at 3, 6, 9, a little bit smoother, a little bit, multiples, 3 times 2 is 6, 3 times 3 is 9. That's not going to happen with 2 and 7. Kind of the same thing with the z, the 5, and the 2. You're not going to be able to multiply 2 times anything to get to 5. And so when you make the decision on which variable that you're going to start with, that's going to be beneficial. So that's going to be the challenge, because if you choose the wrong variable, it might run you down the path where you're going to start getting wrong solutions, or maybe one of the variables will be incorrect. So that's going to be your first challenge. Just look at that. So step number 1, let's go ahead and eliminate the one variable from the first two equations. So we're going to take these two guys right here, and we're going to just focus on those. And let me take a little snapshot, make my life a little bit easier here instead of writing. So we take those two guys right there, and we are going to say, okay, well, if I want to eliminate the y's, okay, my goal is to get rid of the y's right there. If I want to eliminate the y's, what would I need to multiply this guy by so that way I had a 6? The answer is a 2. So our new equation that we'll get out of this guy will be 6x, because we distribute, minus 6y, distribute, plus 10z, distribute, equals negative 22. And we bring our other guy just over, we set him on top. So 2x plus 6y minus z equals 7. Now, what was a horizontal problem? What was the problem we were looking at horizontally? Now becomes a vertical problem. So now we're going to look at it like this. We're going to combine our variables. So 8 plus 2 plus 6 is 8. My positive 6 and my negative 6 cancel. A negative 1 and a positive 10 give me a positive 9z. I go over to the other side. I've got, 7 and negative 22. That's going to give me negative 15. Alright, so now we've taken the first two equations and we've eliminated one of the variables. Now we need to do the same thing for the second two equations. So we come down and we grab the second two equations and we pull them over. So we want to eliminate the same variable, because when we get done here, we need to have a situation that we have only x and z left over, because then our next step would be to eliminate one of those variables. So very closely, if you look at this, or if you look at it very closely, excuse me, you can notice that if we multiply this guy by a positive 3, we'll get a negative 9 for the y. So we go ahead and we do that. So we distribute 9x, negative 9y, plus 15z. And remember, our whole goal here is that we're trying to eliminate this variable in the middle. So we chose that variable in the middle from the very beginning, because when we established 3 times 2 is 6, and 3 times 3 is 9. They're all multiples of each other, so it's going to be the easiest variable to eliminate. So we've got our guy, we've distributed the 3 through him, we bring our one that we didn't touch, bring him over and write him underneath. And now what was a horizontal problem is now a vertical problem. We start combining our like things. So a positive 9 and a positive 7 gives us 16. A negative and a positive cancel, which is our goal. That's the elimination step. A positive 15 and a negative 2 gives us a positive 13. And a negative 33 and a positive 13 gives us a negative 20. So now we've accomplished our goal. Our goal was for step 1 and step 2 was to eliminate the same variable. And that variable that we eliminated were the y's. We got rid of those. Now we're going to take those two new equations and we're going to compare them. Alright, so let's slide this screen over, give me some more room. So we're going to take this guy. He's 8x plus 9z is equal to negative 15. We'll take this guy, which is 16x plus 13z equals negative 20. Alright, so now, once again, our number sense comes back into play. Because we're sitting here and we're looking at these guys and we're saying, okay, 9. 9 times 1 is 9. 9 times 2 is 18. Well, that's not 13. So 9 and 13 are not going to go together very nicely. Whereas 8 and 8 times 2 is 16. These guys are the ones that are going to go together. So our number sense comes into play. So what we need to establish is, what are we going to multiply this top equation by, so that way we can get something that will cancel with the 16? Negative 2. Move this out of the way. So we go ahead and we distribute that in, and we get negative 16x. Give myself a little more room. Remember, I'm distributing. Plus 18z, distribute, equals positive 30. The bottom one stays the same. We don't change him. So he just stays 16x plus 13z equals negative 20. What was a horizontal problem now becomes a vertical problem. We're combining our x's. They cancel. We combine our z's. In this case here, I made a mistake. My mistake, if anybody had caught it, was I was distributing a negative 2, which would have made that a negative 18. So when I combine those terms, I'm going to get negative 5z equals 10. I'm almost there. I'm solving. I got my last step here. I divide by negative 5. I divide by negative 5. I find out that z is equal to negative 2. So I'm on my path. I've got an ordered pair. The first part's going to be an x. The second part will be a y. The third part will be a z. Oops. So I've got this ordered pair, and right now I know the z part. And now I'm looking to fill in the other two pieces. So I can come back from here. I can come back across, and I can say, okay, well, I've got two equations to choose from. I've got 8x plus 9z equals negative 15, or 16x plus 13z equals negative 20. Either one of these, once I plug in what I know, will allow me to find the other. So for step number 4, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, just because the numbers are smaller, I'm going to take this guy and I'm going to bring him down. And so I've got 8x plus 9. Remember my z that I brought over, he's a negative 2. That's that z-score that I just found, equals negative 15. I solve this. I get 8x minus 18 equals negative 15. I add 18. I add 18. I get 8x equals 3. I divide by 8. I divide by 8. I get x is equal to 3 over 8. So we go back up. So now I have my x, which is 3 over 8. So now, out of my 3 variables that I started this equation with, I go back to my originals. Out of my 3 variables, I know 2 of them. So I can choose any one of these equations. It doesn't matter which one. I can choose any one of them and plug in what I know. So just because I haven't used this one when I practice, I'm going to choose the third one. So I'm going to take the third equation, I'm going to plug in what I know. Well, I've got 7. Remember, I just found my x. Remember my x right there? So I got x is 3/8 and z is negative 2. So I got 7 times 3/8 plus 9y minus 2 times negative 2 should be equal to 13. or is equal to 13, excuse me. So I start simplifying this. I pull out my calculator. I haven't used my calculator in front of you guys, so let's go ahead and show you some stuff here. I want to use a fraction, so I'm going to say 7 times. If you have a TI-84 with an updated operating system, there's actually a fraction key. You can hit alpha. That's the alpha button, green. And then you can hit, the next button you hit is y equals. And what that does is it brings up a command screen. And at that point, you're going to choose number 1, which was n divided by d. So you can just hit number 1. And that allows you to type in a fraction. Alright, so I've got that. I press enter. That tells me that my fraction is 21 over 8. Now, if you don't have a TI-84, then if you have a TI-83, then one thing you could do is you could also do this, but convert your answer to a fraction. And I think the fraction is going to be easier to deal with. So we could say 7 times, open parentheses, 3 divided by 8. So it's the same thing, I just don't have a fraction bar like this fancy one right here. I press enter. It gives me my decimal. At this point, you would hit the math key. So if this is you hit math, and you choose number 1, which is fraction. So what it's saying is, I'm going to take what I have, that's what a little arrow means, I'm going to take what I have, and I'm going to change it to a fraction. So it takes this decimal right here and changes it to a fraction. So I get my 21 over 8. Plus 9y plus 4 equals 13. Now the cool part about this is that I need to combine two things. So if I'm using this calculator, at this point, it's cool because I need to combine 21 over 8 and 4. Well, I already have 21 over 8. So I can literally just say plus 4, and it's taken that previous answer and added 4. So now I know that, let me get my pen, I know that I have 53 over 8 plus 9y is equal to 13. And now I need to move that 53 over 8 to the other side. It's positive. The inverse of being a positive is a negative or subtraction. So I need to subtract both sides by 53 over 8. So this is cool also because if I have a TI-84, I can just say 13 minus, and I can just up arrow, press enter, and grab that. Press enter, and it kicks out my answer for me. So it says, okay, well, if you did that, you would get, those would cancel, and you get 9y is equal to 51 over 8. Now, if you didn't have, I need to kind of fudge here a little bit, so let me get that answer back. If you had a TI-83, let's do 53 divided by 8. Let's change it back to a fraction. Okay, so if you didn't have a TI-84 and you were trying to do this, what you'd have to do is you would say 13 minus, and then if you see right here, right by the negative sign, it says answer. What you can do is you can just say second answer, and what it's doing is it's pulling the previous answer, just the last one, down. You press enter, and it gives you your solution. So it actually did that right there. Now you could always just go 13 minus 53 divided by 8 also, and then math, fraction, it'll convert it for you. Okay? Last thing, we've got that number. We need to solve this thing by dividing by 9, right? Because the inverse of multiplying by 9 is to divide by 9. And so we find out that y is equal to, we can just say divided by 9, go, and we get 17 over 24. Now remember, if you have a TI-83, that's going to be a decimal. So I'll just convert it to a decimal real quickly and act like we had a decimal on the screen. So if you have the TI-83, you're going to get this. That's not what my math lab wants. So you'll need to convert that. So you'll hit math, number 1. So you're going to change that decimal to a fraction, and it kicks out that answer, 17 over 24. So a couple technology things that I really haven't brought into the class up to this point. We bring them up here and we scroll across. And so now we know that we have our solution is 17 over 24. Now, in a traditional classroom with a traditional textbook, I would have told you to go and check those answers for each one, like plug those into the original equation. Like come over here and plug those into each one and make sure that that x, y, z combination equals 7. And that x, y, z combination on this side equals negative 11, and so forth. That would have been checking your solution. But here's the deal. We're using My Math Lab. It's beautiful. At this point, you go to My Math Lab, you type in these numbers into the solution blanks, you press check. It tells you if you got it right or wrong. So if you got something wrong, you go back and you look it over. You can always send me an email with a picture of your scratch work, and I can look over your scratch work and help you find your mistake. You try again, it tells you got it right or wrong, and you look it over one more time, send me an email, and you get one more try, right? You get 3 tries at any questions. So before they give you a new one. So just kind of keep that in mind. Make sure you utilize that resource of being able to send me a message. You know, I've told numerous of you at this point that it's okay to take a snapshot and send me an email. If that doesn't work, you know, get my cell phone number. You can send me a text. All right. Hope this video helps. This is from Unit 2.6, number 13, Solving Systems of Equations with 3 Variables.